Hello, team. Welcome to another ATP geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. The Ukraine War news update, the first part thereof for the 25th of January 2025. I released another one of these earlier today for yesterday. I've since been absolutely hammered by a viral illness. Sod's law that four of us have got this, as I mentioned earlier, on our trip to Ukraine, and it's really doing us in. And then Greg and Jenny, Greg Terry from the Greg Terry Experience. Zhenya has medical experience, got hold of someone in um, in Kyiv, and has sent a load of pills round and give me the what for about what to take and what not. Absolutely amazing. I went real downhill after doing my video earlier to the point where I couldn't walk, had to crawl myself to the toilet, literally hands and knees crawling. My MS has been absolutely devastated by this viral illness. Benny, Benny Pie, who's out here with us, he's spent 2 days basically in bed. Um, yeah, so this is it's been a really difficult time for some of us. Bloomin' sod's law, isn't it? You come all the way out here and you get some viral illness. Right. I'll keep this somewhat quick, he says after rambling on. 1,650 personnel lost. This is the Ukrainian general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before, and all the usual caveats apply. You can find them in the description below. 1,650 is a really high number. 7 tanks, fairly considerable there, just under the daily average, but a decent number of tanks lost. 37 troop carrying AFVs is a particularly high number in that category, and artillery systems have dropped now below the daily average. So some of these figures are really up and down on a daily basis. 79 vehicles and fuel tanks is fairly high there. Andrew Perpetua's loss lists show a pretty staggering amount of mainly civilian vehicles that the Russians have lost here, ATVs as well, some trucks, and actually the Ukrainians losing more combat assets, even though overall it's sort of 2.5 to 1. The ratio is of Russian to Ukrainian losses. Look at the destroyed against the damaged in terms of the civilian vehicles, extraordinary numbers there. But actually, in terms of the combat assets, the Ukrainians have lost more. Some T-64s, T-80 tanks. Out the four damaged, 3 of them were known to be older Soviet tanks, although some of these might be newer iterations. 3 infantry fighting vehicles, um, Soviet ones there. 4 APC, sorry. All of those lost irretrievably. 3 M113s and a Stryker fell into a hole and then hit by a Vandal drone. How many times have we seen that? A Lancet's still featuring quite a bit, but look at the Vandal drones. They are being exceptionally useful. That's a quadcopter that's fairly decent size, can obviously take a few a few munitions, and then Kozak's 3 MRAPs and an infantry mobility vehicle to add to the list there. Nothing crazy valuable though, so even though they've lost more than the Russians in terms of combat assets, or at least traditional combat assets, it's not the worst in the world really. The Russians losing a couple of old D-30 howitzers, or at least one's destroyed, one's damaged. 1 single tank, 3 infantry fighting vehicles, a couple of BMP-3s and a BMP-1, and some basically nothing too much to write home about. We have 7 ATVs, golf buggies and quads, and an awful lot of civilian vehicles as well, including a number of motorcycles. Moving on, we see a Nemesis drone from the Ukrainians does not stop hunting Russian air defense systems. This time it's a Buk M3 was bombarded. I've actually seen 2, I think, Buks taken out by Nemesis just recently. But yeah, just show you this one of a book getting taken out. I presume this is at night. It's thermal imagery. It might not be at night. It might be it's easier to see that in the daytime like that. But yeah, so Nemesis does not stop hunting these Russian air defense systems. Book M3 taken out. Okay, moving on. The Ukrainian Fibre Optic FPV drone flew right up to the entrance of the occupiers, so Russian dugout in Kursk. But they got lucky. It failed to detonate. My goodness me! Imagine how lucky you would feel there with that FPV drone landing at your front door. Interesting that the Ukrainians using fiber optics there as well. They're playing a bit of catch up with regard to fiber optic drones. Benjamin Tallis set. Well, okay. First of all, we go to Christian Teals, who says a Ukrainian Leopard 1A5 tank, recently upgraded with additional protection measures, survived a series of attacks from Russian FPV drones during a battle on the front lines. So these have been upgraded to have a lot more protective armor. Benjamin Tallis says apparently mainly due to the grills, meshes, and reactive armor added by the Ukrainians. It survived, but well, it didn't survive. Nonetheless, 10 low-cost drone strikes eventually disabled the tank. That's incredible to think that it took 10 drone strikes to disable that tank. But, that also goes to show that those drones are just all over the shop. There are so many drones flying in the air, 10 of them hitting that. I was listening to the Task and Purpose, wasn't it, who went into Kursk. He's looking around at Bradley and just showing you all the drone damage that had been done by this Bradley, which has survived, still being used. And the Stryker as well. The crew of that were talking about just the sheer number of drones you have to put up with. It's quite incredible. So there's that. And in the Irkutsk region, a Sunday school at the Church of St. Nicholas burned down. It was a humanitarian aid collection point for the special military operation. So I don't know if that's a bit of sabotage, but Russia on fire. Okay, going to distant strikes. The Ukrainian air defense repelled a combined missile and drone attack. Out of 61 Shahids launched, 46 were shot down, another 15 suppressed by electronic warfare, so 100% interception rate. And Russia also launched 2 Kh-59 cruise missiles, and both were shot down. Actually, we'll go to that now because I think it's here. Yes. So the Ukrainian Navy has released footage of a ship-mounted Vampire SAM successfully intercepting a Russian Kh-59 short-range cruise missile. So that was today in the Odessa region. This appears to be the first footage of an L3 Harris Vampire intercepting a Russian cruise missile with an APKWS laser-guided rocket. Though the Vampire is not directly named in the post, the interface and hit is identical to previous known Vampire interceptions. Are also the first outright confirmation that Ukrainian Navy vessels have been upgraded with the Vampire SAM systems. Well, these aren't always SAMs. Actually, you can use them on helicopters to shoot at ground targets. But here, that was kind of like a technical loaded on the back of an SUV. We've seen Humvees loaded with these. I think officially Ukraine has only received 14 of these Vampire systems, which is really annoying because I think Kobe Badwar was saying BAE systems can make 25,000 rockets a year, just as it stands, of those, and they should have been given 140 rather than 14. But really interesting that cruiser missile shot down with one of these, because that's fairly low tech, to be perfectly honest. Yeah, I didn't have anything else on that. I might have put it in the military aid video. Okay, however, given that Russia did attack last night and everything was shot down, what goes up must come down. There was significant damage, particularly to an apartment block on the outskirts of Kyiv and in Khmelnytskyi, and from Cherkassy as well, where officials insist falling debris caused the fire at critical infrastructure. So, they claimed 100%, but critical infrastructure was hit. Photos of the damage in Kyiv. Yeah, difficult to be certain if the Enterprise, which caught fire, was also due to falling wreckage. So general damage caused by these drones that come down, even if they are shot down or taken out with electronic warfare. Tim White talks about that Kh-59. It's fired from a Su-57, he says, and I think that's pretty significant. Su-57 is a fifth-generation fighter that the Russians haven't really used in the war. Might be due to manufacturing issues and not having the capacity to make that many of them, and if they get shot down, might be because they're not very good. I don't know. But a Kh-59 was fired by a Su-57, and that was one in Pivdeni and Odessa region. That was one that was shot down by the Harris Vampire and the APKWS missile. Right. As far as Ukraine are concerned, I don't know of too much information of strikes into Russia. Belgorod, big explosion there. Something was hit. Looks like in the daytime, but might have been at night and still burning. A warehouse has burned down at night near Morozovsk. I don't know if this was from a strike, but anyway, it's burning near the military airfield in the Rostov region. Probably was a strike. And then I like this. Anton Gerashenko says, I really like this picture. This is a Russian oil refinery bingo. Uh, all of all of the ones with red crosses, of course, won't be completely destroyed. There'll be damage done to them, and maybe some of them might have been already repaired. But you can see the amount of oil refineries they have, and Ukraine is working on taking them out one by one, perhaps. Okay, moving on to a couple of other bits and pieces. Anton Gerashenko said 2 planes had trouble in Russia over the past 24 hours, and an AN-24 rolled off the landing strip in the Khabarovsk region and crashed into the bushes today. No casualties were reported. The plane's engine allegedly failed during takeoff. And last night, a flight traveling from Moscow to Istanbul had to make an emergency landing in Astrakhan. Aeroflot said the Boeing 737-800 plane had technical issues. It's not safe to fly in Russia, so it appears. Um, and Russia's tanker disaster in the Black Sea spilled over 4,000 tons of oil, causing an environmental catastrophe. Experts said recovery could take 20 years. Meanwhile, Moscow downplays the crisis, according to the Center for National Resistance, and it's a real shame that that has happened. That's enough from me. I would like to upload loads of the footage we've taken the last few days. I'm going to see if I've got the wherewithal to do that. Hopefully, I'm back on it tomorrow. I've had a whole day in the hotel room today, which is a real shame. But hopefully, I'll be feeling a little bit better tomorrow after I pack myself full of pills. Take care, guys, and I'll speak to you soon.